Hi, my name is Paola. I make videos about albinism for people with albinism so that we can live better with our condition. This is albinism. So let's just get everybody on the same page. What is albinism? The simplified version that I personally give people when I have to explain my condition is my body cannot produce melanin. Melanin is what gives your hair, skin, and eyes color. Melanin also protects your skin from the sun, and it also plays a role in the development of your eyes. So I'm very sensitive to sunlight, and I'm very nearsighted. But that's not entirely accurate, and there's so much more to it than that. Thus, this entire channel, but let's just start by breaking that down. First, it's very important for you to understand that this condition is genetic in nature. It is occurring throughout the animal and plant kingdoms. There have been a lot of myths and urban legends surrounding albinism, but it's important for you to understand that nobody did anything wrong. If you have albinism, it just means that your parents were carriers of the genetic code. This is true of all the genetic conditions, of which there are many. And right now, we're not great about curing genetic conditions.
Hey, I shouldn't have used the word cure without a little bit more of an explanation that I am for the social model of disability over the medical model of disability. Disabled people are not the problem. We do not need to be fixed, healed. Society needs to reform to become more universally accessible to everybody. I'm going to link a video down below. Okay, just wanted to pop in and mention that.
It's in your literal DNA throughout your whole body, affecting multiple systems. So we haven't figured it out yet, but it's important for you to understand that a person with albinism can have a normal life as long as they are able to take certain precautions. I say able to because I want to acknowledge the fact that there are some people who don't have the resources to take good care of themselves with their condition. So people with albinism who live in less developed countries, for example, or are in agrarian settings, they oftentimes pass away before the age of 30 from skin cancer. That's something that, of course, it really makes my heart hurt, and I hope to help in any way that I can. So our bodies cannot produce melanin, which protects your skin from the sun. It also gives pigmentation or color. So it's a genetic condition of hypopigmentation, meaning lack of pigmentation. We are born with little to no pigmentation in our hair, skin, and eyes. There are variations though. There are two main types of albinism: ocular albinism and oculocutaneous albinism. Ocular albinism is localized to the eyes. Oculocutaneous albinism, oculo meaning eye, cutaneous meaning skin. Oculocutaneous albinism is throughout the whole body. That's what I have. From there are several more classifications, but the main thing that I want you to understand is that you can have albinism and have white hair like mine, or you could have more like yellow hair or orange hair, red hair. You could even have brown hair. You could have blue eyes like mine, or you could have more like gray, purple, green, even brown. You could be very fair like me, or you could be more like a creamy brown. You could even have completely normal coloration for your ethnic background and have ocular albinism. Furthermore, you could have albinism and need to use a cane and have a guide dog, or you could just need magnification, or you could have a mild form of albinism and essentially have normal vision. There are several types of albinism, the most common being OCA1, both A and B, and OCA2. OCA2 is most common in the African diaspora. There are also several conditions that can be comorbid with albinism. So for example, Hermansky-Padlock syndrome being probably the most common. I'm going to be making several videos on the different types of albinism, so make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. So we're sensitive to sunlight, but it's not just sunlight, right? It's UV rays. So for example, don't use a tanning bed. Personal story, all growing up, I really didn't like black lights. This was the 90s, so they had them at parties, in science class also. And it really bothered my eyes, even if I wasn't looking directly at it. Just being in its proximity really bothered my eyes, and I didn't know why. Turns out, black lights are almost entirely UV. So, some artificial lights can have UV. So I also said that I'm very nearsighted, but it's not just nearsightedness, which is called myopia. I just feel like that's probably like the most simple way to let them know that I have vision issues, various vision issues. If you have albinism, you could also have farsightedness, which is called hyperopia, or you can have stigmatism, which is the irregular shape to the eye itself. These are all called refractive errors, but they are not the sole cause of our low vision. It is true that melanin plays a surprisingly integral role in the development of your eyes, but our entire visual system is anomalous. It's abnormally formed. And to be clear, we're not entirely sure why. So you could have albinism and you may or may not benefit from glasses. Our vision is not entirely corrected by surgery or by glasses. I'm emphasizing this mainly for the other audience members, but if you happen to be watching this and you are under the age of 13, there might be options for you to improve strabismus and nystagmus. What is strabismus and nystagmus? Nystagmus is involuntary movement of the eye, so the oscillation back and forth. Strabismus is when one eye is off center from the other. So we may have trouble focusing our eyes. It could be fatiguing to focus our vision. Also, of course, light sensitivity in the eyes, photosensitivity. We also tend to have issues with depth perception. Depth perception is seeing things in 3D, being able to see how close or far something is from you. I imagine this video in particular will have a mixed audience, so let me address people who don't have albinism really quick. It might be kind of frustrating if you're trying to figure out what we can and cannot see, and I'm sad to say there's no simple answer to that question. For one, as you can see, there are so many variables. On top of the fact that I have had my vision my entire life, you have had your vision your entire life, and we can't switch eyeballs. So the question at its premise is a difficult proposition. The one thing that I would say is let's all be patient. If you've met one person with albinism, you've met one person with albinism. Our sight varies. Of course, our subjective experience matters, so you should ask us directly for clues. Ask directly, ask politely, do not bombard. Mostly though, I would say just pay attention. I would say please don't rely on the person to tell you over and over and over that they can't see a particular thing. Just take note whenever you get that feedback that they can or cannot see something, and be considerate. I've had relationships with teachers or with friends that have asked me one or two questions here or there, and within a couple months they understand my vision better than people I've known for many years, even my own biological family. So yeah, I can't emphasize it enough. Just notice. One hint that I'll give you is that when you do ask questions, make them specific questions. So can you see fill in the blank is a very vague question. What exactly are you asking whether or not I can see? Like, what detail are you asking if I can see? Because I can't always tell you what I can't see because I can't see it. That's all I'll say about that. Maybe one day I'll make a series addressing people without albinism directly. But to be honest, that's not the focus of my channel. I would like to speak directly to people with albinism. Hey, welcome back. Let's talk more about our eyes and then we'll talk about our skin. The vision of people with albinism varies, but it's most commonly around 2200, which is the threshold where you would be considered legally blind, or you could say visually impaired. People who are visually impaired can benefit from assistive equipment and adaptive services. There are different names for it, so like orientation and mobility training, or vision rehabilitation therapy. Essentially, you're given different technologies and you're given different tips and tricks. You're trained on how to make everyday living a little bit more accessible, easy. Because you gotta think, like, this world is made with 20/20 vision kind of as the default. So we could use a little extra guidance as to how to confidently navigate this 2020 world. I'll be honest that I've had mixed experiences with those types of services. Sometimes it's been a phenomenal waste of my time. Other times it's proven to be invaluable. And sometimes it's even kind of backfired. Rarely, but it has kind of backfired because separate is not equal. But if you haven't looked into it, I would really recommend to. Your local area might have a whole lot of something or a whole lot of nothing. It varies. You should know what resources are at your disposal so that if and when something comes up, you know who to call. Blind services! Accessibility is another topic that I will be expanding upon in coming videos, so make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. Ring my bell, ring my bell, ring-a-ling-a-ling. Did I just hardcore date myself? Okay, one last word about eyes. We should have an established relationship with an ophthalmologist, especially if we have glasses, to keep our prescription up to date. Now let's talk about skin. Our melanin deficit puts us at higher risk for sunburns. Sunburns can be miserable. You could get blisters, flaking, peeling skin. You could even run a fever. We're also at higher risk for sun damage, which again is not nothing to play with. Your skin can be red, splotchy, purple. It can even become leathery. And with all that said, we are at higher risk for skin cancer, which I know sounds really scary, but it's important to understand that we can have a normal lifespan just so long as we practice sun care and especially as we get older, that we check our skin for abnormalities. I have a sun care playlist, so make sure to click here and please take care. In general, skin cancer has a very good survival rate because when caught early enough, it's superficial, it's as easy as cutting it out. Alright, gross pictures of skin cancer coming. So the most common skin cancers for us would be basal cell carcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma. The most deadly form of skin cancer, called melanoma, we don't tend to get that one probably because we don't have melanin. Basal cell carcinoma shows up most commonly as open sores, pink or red patches or growths, a shiny bump with a pearly top. Both basal cell carcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma can show up with a central indentation. Squamous cell carcinoma shows up most commonly as scaly, rough, thick warts. They might be really crusty and tend to bleed. It might be surrounded by wrinkly skin. You may notice it rapidly increasing in size. Make sure to have an established relationship with a dermatologist and get skin examinations just to be safe. If you have a romantic partner, it's not a bad idea to let them know this information and maybe show them some pictures, because statistically, regardless of people's vision, statistically, partners help people catch cancer early. If you are the parent of somebody with albinism, let me emphasize that sunburns in childhood, in particular, raise a person's chance of having skin cancer. I am intimately aware of how sensitive my skin is, and I feel pretty confident in saying that a child can have that big, open, epic, free childhood that we all want our kids to have, while also staying safe, not having not one significant sunburn. A little pink under the eyes, okay, but a big sunburn, no, not necessary at all.
Let me clarify here that I mean as a standalone incident. A little bit pink under the eyes as a standalone incident, okay, whatever. But let me clarify that prolonged, mild exposure can also be dangerous, not just sunburns. Okay, back to the video.
This video would not be complete unless I mentioned that people with albinism can experience social rejection and isolation. There can be bullying or even straight up rejection within someone's community or even within someone's own family. There's even prosecution of people with albinism based on superstition. It's common enough to mention and 100% not your fault. You probably know what I mean when I say that people can kind of treat us like we're magical nymphs. And in reality, it's I like anime and video games. And so much of what I'm talking about also applies to the general public. UV radiation is not good for anyone's skin. A lot of people start losing their sight around 40 years old. A lot of these conditions, strabismus, nystagmus, astigmatism, etc., they are not unique to albinism. There are many conditions that can cause photosensitivity. A lot of people's ethnic background is ambiguous based off their appearance. I think it can kind of throw people off sometimes how incredibly boringly normal we are. So let's show them. I want to encourage you, when you feel safe, to be upfront and honest about your condition and to ask directly for the support and consideration that you need and that you deserve, because you have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. I invite you to unapologetically look out for yourself because you're worth it. All right, see you next week. Bye.